Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the IndieCommerce webinar. Just hold on a bit. Scott, you should be able to share your screen.
You got it.
Okay, there we go. Let's give it a couple of minutes before we start. We have people joining in.
Okay.
While we wait for others to join in, just a show of hands if you have any trouble viewing the screen or hearing Scott or me. I guess we are good. Okay, let's begin. So welcome to today's IndieCommerce webinar, and this is going to be a live demo of our new feature, which is custom order confirmation emails and invoices. I'm Geeta Nathan. I will be the moderator. Scott Nabs, our IndieCommerce training manager, will be presenting. So up until now, stores had only one template for their order confirmation emails, and that was the only option they had. They could not add their own thank you messages or upload a different logo, add a coupon, or anything. So we created this new feature, which will allow stores to create several custom templates for order confirmation emails, and they can actually configure them for different types of orders using roles. For example, you can use one template for orders that are to be picked up at the store and another template for orders that are shipped to the customers. So this live demo today will cover all the configurations and settings to use this feature successfully. And before we begin, a couple of housekeeping reminders. All attendees are in a listen-only mode. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please go ahead and then put it into the questions pane of your GoToWebinar panel, and we will address the questions depending on the questions either during or after the presentation. And this webinar is being recorded. The recording of this webinar and the related help documents will be available early next week. So we have a lot to cover today. So without any further delay, I will hand it over to Scott. Scott, take it away.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Okay, so as Geeta said, for this webinar, we're going to be looking at a feature that's going to allow stores to send a customized email invoice when an order is placed, which a lot of stores have been asking about. Now, by default, when a customer places an order on your site, they automatically receive a confirmation email. The email is fairly generic, and it includes all the pertinent information about a customer's order. In fact, let's take a look at one of those before we do anything else. So I have an email right here. Now, I'm running all of this off of a couple of IndieCommerce sample sites. So this is the store name up here is the IndieCommerce sample site, your order. There is a thank you message up here. Thanks for your order, Scott. We happen to be on first name basis. Would you like to manage your order online? And we have some purchasing information, so an order summary, again, pretty standard information. And at the bottom, we have a little more text down here, which is considered the help text and the auto reply message and a signature at the very bottom here. So a couple of things to keep in mind, first of all, when we're looking at this email. First of all, you'll notice that across the top there's a banner. What's happening here is that the email is automatically pulling the logo from the top of the site. And this is a very large logo. You can see it's a little unwieldy. We're going to address that a little later. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that some of this information cannot be changed. The purchasing information here and the order summary information, that will always be available. So what we're going to be focusing on is changing the thank you message at the top, and we'll take a look at changing the information at the bottom. However, keep in mind, as we're talking about this, the information at the top and the thank you message is really the most important. If there's anything that you're trying to, any information that you're trying to convey to your customers, this is where they're going to see it. If you put it all the way at the bottom of the footer, I'm going to go ahead and bet that a lot of people aren't going to see it. So that's so we're going to be concentrating on the top of the email, the thank you message as it is. Okay. Now, as you can probably imagine, this generic default email may not be appropriate for all orders. For instance, you may want customers who are picking up at the store to receive a slightly different email from those customers who are having orders shipped. Now, the extent of the custom email invoice feature allows a store to create several different email templates, as Geeta said, and then set up conditions that will use a particular email template depending on the specifics of the order. So for instance, you can have an email template regarding an upcoming event. If the customer has a particular relevant title in their order at checkout, the customer can receive a specific email reminding them of the event. In fact, a particular title could also trigger an email telling the customer that the book's pub date has been pushed back so that the order will take a little longer to fill. For instance, lately Michelle Obama's book had been back ordered at the publisher, so a similar email might have been sent out for a book like that. Now, first of all, if you want to use the feature, you do need to request that the module be turned on if it isn't already. Just email staff@bookweb.org and request the custom email invoice module be enabled. Now, once the feature is enabled, you'll find some of the controls for it here. We're going to go to Store, Configuration, Orders, and Email Invoice Templates. Now, when you first get here, you won't actually see anything. You won't see the default template that actually goes out to your customer every time. It's in the system, but it's not visible here. Okay. We'll talk about how to get that information and then modify it. Now, keep in mind, as we get started here, there are two different components necessary for setting up a custom email invoice. Number one is the actual email template, which we're going to be writing shortly. And the second part is a rule to dictate when that email template will be used. So we're going to take a look at the template itself, and then we'll move over to the rule and put that together. Okay. So first of all, we can look at, if I simply start the process here to create a new template, I'm going to call it in-store pickup, and I click add. What you're going to see when this page refreshes is the actual default email. Now it's calling it in-store pickup because I'm calling my new template in-store pickup. At the top here, I have a specific spot where I can upload a small logo specifically for emails and invoices. As we saw on the email that I showed you, this email has a huge banner at the top. If you have a huge logo on your site, then you're going to want to either upload a small logo here, or there's actually a spot where you can go to Store, Configuration, Account Information and Preferences, and Store Preferences. There's actually an option here to hide the logo in the invoice.
Scott,
yes?
I think we have a couple of suggestions for you to take it a little slow so that they can follow.
Understood. Sorry. I get that complaint a lot. Okay. So again, to get here, we just went to Store, Configuration, then to Account Information and Preferences, and then finally Store Preferences. So there are a lot of preferences here. We're not going to go into these, but the one I'm looking at is hide logo in invoice. If you do that, the logo will be hidden on those invoices and those emails.
Scott, do you have a store admin account on this site?
I don't believe I do.
Okay, that's fine.
My apologies. You're seeing a much fuller admin menu because I'm logged in as an ABA admin. Okay, so we're going to go back to the previous page where we're going to start setting up our template. So if I click Add, the system is going to populate all of these fields with the default email information that always goes out to my customers. Now, again, there are several parts of this email that we can change. There's a thank you message, which appears at the very top here. There is help text, an auto reply message, and a signature or contact info, which all appear down here at the bottom. That's all three of those all together here. Okay. So what we're going to be doing, I'm going to concentrate, as I said, we're going to concentrate on the thank you message at the top. We're going to leave the help text and the rest of that alone. It's fairly standard information, and frankly, I don't think it's necessary to change it. So what I'm going to do here is take my default generic thank you message. And what I like to do is drop this into a notepad file where I can start editing it and making changes to it. So the first thing I wanted to do when I open this up, I want to see what the email is and what it's referencing. So this is the email that goes out to my customers. It says, thank you for your order. Now you'll notice there's a little phrase in here in between the brackets. Anytime you see this phrase in between the brackets, it's called a token or a replacement token or a replacement pattern. The idea is that if I drop this into the email, it will be replaced, in this case, with the customer's first name. We also have a replacement pattern for the site URL and the site name and a site login link. All of that's automatic. So to be honest, the only thing I really changed here was instead of saying thanks for your order, I said dear first name, and I'll show you in a sec. And then I changed this single line to be a couple of paragraphs of information. And I've actually done that right here. So you can see dear first name. There's a little formatting, a bold in my paragraph tag, so it looks nice. Thank you for placing your order with your local independent bookstore. And then it says, since you've arranged to pick up your order at the store, just want to remind you, et cetera, et cetera. This is all the things that I need my customer to know. This is all going to go at the top of that email. So now that I have this information, I can create my template. So I'm going to come back here. Now, ordinarily, what I would do is replace this. And this is my new email. This is what's going to go out to my customers. As it turns out, I've already set this up on another site. So I'm going to take a look. I wanted to show you this page so you can see what it looks like when you haven't done anything yet, when you first get here. I'm going to go to another site where I've actually set some of this up so you can see what it looks like. So again, I'm going to go to Store, Configuration, Orders, and Email Invoice Templates. So here, I have a number of templates that I've already created. There's actually I have a generic modified. If I don't like the generic email that's already going out, I can change it a little bit. But in this case, I have an in-store pickup email. There we go. So here's my thank you message that we just looked at. It has the tokens. It's going to pull my customer's first name, as well as some of my site information and the link back to their account to log in. And as I said, this help text down at the bottom here, I'm going to leave that all in place. The auto reply, everything I'm going to leave in place. I don't really need to change that. So now I have my new in-store pickup template. And in fact, at the very bottom of the page here, there's a preview. If I click on the preview, we can see what this email is going to look like. Now, we saw it was very, very simple, very generic, the default email. So here, this is what my customer is going to see. And again, I've bolded the information that I really want them to notice in this particular email, which is basically don't come to the store until we tell you. Okay. So now we have our email ready to go. Our template is ready to go. By the way, I want to show you this also. We talked about the replacement tokens or replacement patterns. There are a few of them here. I'll be honest with you, you can get really bogged down. There are hundreds, literally hundreds of these. Mostly we use them to pull the site name, the customer's email address, or the customer's first name and things like that. Don't get bogged down when you see how many there are. Really, only a few of them are useful for this. Okay, so at the very bottom, you're going to want to save your configuration. So now I have my in-store pickup email. So I have my email, but there's another part, as I mentioned before. The other part of this whole thing is a rule which will dictate exactly when this email template is used. So the next thing we're going to look at are rules. You're going to find your rules under Configuration, Workflow, and Rules. Now, when you get to this page, you're going to notice there are a few rules here already. There are a couple of things that we already have the site do automatically based on certain conditions and certain actions. For instance, by default, when a customer checks out, they're already getting this default email. And by the way, I'm sure everyone's noticed when a customer places an order, the store also gets an email. And these are the rules that dictate that happens. So in this case, I've created, actually, let's delete this and we'll start from scratch on this. So what I'm going to do is add a new rule that relates to my email template. So I'm going to go to the top here. I'm going to say add new rule. The name of my rule is going to be in-store pickup email. I don't need a tag. We're not going to worry about that. But I do need to select an event that this is going to react on. And you'll see this is pretty obvious. I'm going to use the one right at the top here, customer completes checkout. There are other things here, but most of these aren't going to be relevant to your customer. Really, customer completes checkout is when these are used most. Okay, so I'm going to save this. And we've already started to build our rule. So now at the bottom, I have my in-store pickup email. So I'm going to click into this rule. Now a rule has 3 parts of its own. It has an event, which we've just set up, that is customer completes checkout. And then we have conditions under which this rule will be applied. And then the action is what's going to happen if the conditions apply. So we have our event, our customer completes checkout. The next thing we want to do is add a condition under which this will be used. So we're going to add a condition. The condition here is very specific. The customer has chosen to pick their order up at the store. So when I click on my drop-down menu here, they're all, again, you're going to see a lot of options here. There's really only a few that are really helpful. So what we're looking for here under not even order, not order product, we're looking for order shipping quote. And in this case, order has a shipping quote from a particular method. So I'm going to click on that. Now, I don't want to confuse the issue, but keep in mind that Drupal considers in-store pickup to be a shipping method. It's simply a method by which the books get from the store to the customer. So it's going to be listed here under shipping method. So I'm going to choose in-store pickup. And then I'm going to click save down here. Now you can see I have 2 parts of my rule already done. The event, customer completes checkout. The condition is that the order has a quote from a particular method, and that is in-store pickup. The last thing I need to do here is create an action. What's going to happen when these conditions are met? So I go to add action. And under add action, again, we're going to have a long drop-down list here. But what we really want, this is going to be pretty obvious, under order, we want to send an email and order invoice. So I'm going to say this. Now, because I chose that, Drupal again wants to know a few things. Okay, so we're going to send this email out. Who's it going to come from? By default, it's going to come from the store's main email address. Now, keep in mind, when your customer sees this email, they're going to see at the top a do not reply address. But if your customer replies, it will go back to the store's main address. So the sender here, I'm not going to change it. I could put in my own email address, but I don't need to. As it says, leave blank to use your store email address. Again, I have replacement patterns, but I'm not going to use those here. The recipient, on the other hand, this is the customer. Now, obviously, I can't put hundreds and hundreds of email addresses in here. So again, we have a replacement pattern for this, and it is, again, in the brackets, order email. Okay, so every time this email goes out, the recipient will be the email address that is pulled from that order. All right, then we have a subject, and I do have a subject. That is picking up your order. Oops. There we go, picking up your order at Cascado Books. All right, now down at the bottom here, this you do want to pay attention to, because if you don't set these right, your customer is not going to get this email. So first of all, the invoice template, we want customer. This is going to go out to the customer. Next, we have the customer template. Now I have there's a default, I did a generic modified. I just wanted to see where all the fields were, but I have my in-store pickup, and that's the one that I'm going to specify here. Okay, now at the very bottom, this kind of threw me for a loop. If you click on the included information, what you want to do is click on the last one, show all of the above information plus the thank you message, which appears at the top. Okay, now I'm going to save this. So now I have my rule and all of its three components: the event, the condition, and the action. And then again, I have my template, which we've set up already. So the only thing left to do here is actually place an order. We can do this pretty quickly. So I want to place an order. Just click on the book here. I'm going to add that to the cart. Okay, and we're going to check out. I only need to do a couple of things here. I want to say that I'm picking up in the store. I'm not being a good customer by doing it this way, but I'm just going to push through. And then finally, I have my billing information. We're all good. I'm going to review the order. And I'm going to submit it. And that's it. That's the end of my role as a customer. So now, hopefully, we can see very quickly. Let's go back to my inbox here. Here we go. Picking up your order at Cascado Books. It immediately shows up. So here's the tagline, the subject that I put in. Then I have, Dear Scott, thank you for placing your order with your local independent bookstore. Now again, this email has this long banner image at the top. So all of my email text scrolls all the way off to the side of the page. So that's obviously not what we want, but we can see that the customer is now getting the message that I want them to see. Again, the purchasing information will always be there, as well as the order summary. And again, you can change the information all the way at the bottom. But again, I chose here, in this case, there was really no need to. Okay, so the last thing I want to do then, I'm going to go back here, and we want to get one more of these emails. I'm going to go again to Store, Configuration, Account Information and Preferences, and Store Preferences. And from here, I am going to do Hide Logo and Invoice. And I'm going to save that. Okay. Let's push one more order through very quickly. And we'll see if this doesn't do exactly what we're looking for. Okay, again, my pickup options, my payment, and we'll review the order and place it. Okay, so one more time. Let's see if we can't. Here we go. That's my new one here. Here we go. So this is the one that I've just sent out. Now that entire banner is missing from the top. Now this is all in the same email thread here. Let me see if I can pop this out. No, it's not what I want. Well, again, it's all part of the same email thread, so I still have this scrolling issue, but you can see the one at the bottom here doesn't have that large banner at the top. So all of my text would actually wrap comfortably right under here, and it would all be visible on the same page. All right, let's see. And then again, my information at the bottom here. All right, let's see. So let's go back up here. All right. So Geeta, at this point, I'm going to ask you, have I forgotten anything? Am I missing something?
Okay, I think I would start with, go back a few steps. So first thing is, this is a new feature. So if any store wants to request a new feature, can you show?
Yes, so we have a features request page where you can find all of the features that are available through IndieCommerce, and it'll actually show you whether you're using them or not, and it will allow you to request that they be turned on or off. So if we go to Store, Configuration.
And before that, Scott, which site, so are you on ICI site 3?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to see if I can quickly create a store admin account for you, so the menus are,
I see, I see.
um, or I can do one thing. Let's, okay, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're going to go
Just
to,
a note that yes,
yep.
what Scott is logged in as an ABA admin, and so he sees several menu options there, but as a store admin, you will only see what is required. Most of it will be gone, so it'll be much cleaner when you view the site as a store admin.
Yes. Okay, so if I go to store configuration, account information and preferences, and then store features. If you click on this link, you'll go to a page. We have amazing new features at the top. The abandoned cart messenger is something we just covered at Winter Institute. So there's a lot of things here. Go through this. You may not be aware of a lot of these features, so go through. There's a brief description on everything, and then you'll see these checkboxes where it's either enabled or you want to enable this feature. So if you don't see a checkbox, a check mark, you can go ahead and enable it. Or if you do see the check mark, you can request to disable a particular feature. Okay, let's see.
So that I think that is the best way for you to request a feature. So instead of just sending a separate email, and once you're on this page, as Scott mentioned, please look at all the other features that are here. If you need anything, just send us a request. So that would be the first one. And then we talked about the store admin access. So you will see only what you can see.
Yes.
So just going back a step, I know this is a new feature and there's a lot of information that is shared today, so it might be a little overwhelming. So just to break it into steps. So first, if you need the feature, please go to this features page and send us an email, and we will have it enabled for you. And when we enable the feature, we will send you an email again with instructions, with a link to this webinar and also to the help documents, which will give you detailed instructions on how to set it up. The third is, when you start working with this, our recommendation is take the default email that is available on the site right now. Before you even create a new one, take the default email and modify it. So just add, like, maybe modify the thank you message on top. Don't make any changes. So make the thank you message, change it, and save it as a customized version of the default, which is, I think, Scott had referred to as the custom generic or something you call it in your site.
I called it my modified generic.
Modified generic, okay. And the next step is, this is an email that your customers are going to get. So that needs to be tested before you can actually make it live on your site. So one way to test it is, in addition to actually sending an email out for the order confirmation, this email can also be selected from an invoice that already exists on the site. So we recommend that you place an order on the website. So you get an email, which will be the old email. Then go to that order. Scott, can you go to one of the orders?
Sure.
Even an old order is fine.
No,
so just click on order number 79, which was So this is an order that was placed before the changes were made. So now click on invoice. From here, actually, you will be able to send. Sometimes you send a follow-up email to your customers, or they may request a copy of the email later. So here, if you go to mail invoice, you will see that same option for you to select the template. So this is a good place for you to test it before the email is made live using rules. So you can choose place an order, get the email, then go to your order, use the invoice tab, mail invoice, and mail the new invoice to yourself. So take a look at that. I know first thing you have to look at the preview, make sure it looks right. The next test that you can do is mail the invoice to yourself. Make sure it looks right. You can do this even for a customer's order. You can just make sure that you change the email address there and then send it to yourself and make sure the email invoice is correct. Once those are correct, then I think you're set. Then you go to the rules and make that the email that is used in your that already exists on your site. Scott walked you through the steps for creating a new rule, but before you can create a new rule, you can actually edit one of the existing rule. So Scott, can you go to that existing? So this, you will find this rule on all sites. So this is what actually triggers the confirmation email to your customers. So once you have selected the modified generic, you can go in here and make sure that your default email is using the modified generic. So you have to go, yes, so the invoice template is customer, and yes, that would be generic modified, and make sure the included information is correct. If it's the default, it's generally, it's all set up right, so that should be fine. And now save it. So what happens here is your generic is now modified and the customers are going to get this modified generic. And again, please make sure that your customers are getting the right emails, make sure that the copy is correct, confirm it. And once it's done, the next step would be the slightly harder part, which is creating a new template and creating a new role for it. And I know many of you probably have not worked with roles before. So if that is the case, and if you need help with creating those additional rules, please don't hesitate to write to us. We can help you create the rules. All we need to know is the templates and what rules, and then we can help you set it up, and we'll send you detailed instructions. Moving forward, you will be able to create your own rules. And the other setting that you have to check is the preferences page, where you can check off the logo and the store name. So those are the two things that you can hide from your template. And I think Scott showed you an
Nope.
invoice.
Yeah,
Sometimes you're, yeah.
We lost you for a little bit there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the example that Scott showed is to hide the logo in the invoice. So sometimes your store logos are big and it's colorful, and that can actually make it harder for many email clients to load. So it is a good practice, best practice, to upload a smaller logo for the email invoices. So here Scott showed you how to hide the logo. So, and you can also, from that template page, you can also upload your new logo in here. Scott, do you have any logo that you can upload?
Let's see.
It should be like any basic logo. It could be like 100 by 100 pixel logo that you want to upload. So once you upload the logo, the new logo here, so this gets used in this template, in the all the custom templates. So this is the other option. But if you choose to hide the logo, whether it is the default logo or the new logo, it will be hidden.
I don't think I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And the other preference setting that you have is for hiding the store name. If you look at the sample email that Scott showed you, so you have the logo, you have the store name, and then you have the store address. In some cases, the logo includes the store name. So for those stores, they don't want the logo having the store name and the store name also appearing right next to it. So for those stores, it would be beneficial for you to hide the store name from these invoices. Again, any change that you make, please make sure the invoice template looks good. Look at it in the preview before you make it live, because customers are actually receiving these emails. Once you make it live, customers are receiving the email. So please make sure that the preview looks good before you save it. And also, when you look at the preview, these are like some of the common mistakes that we made while we were testing it. So you look at the preview, you see that it's all good and you're happy with it. Please don't forget to do the save configuration at the bottom, because just previewing the logo, preview of the email does not save it. You have to go down to that page and then save the configuration. That is what saves. Otherwise, all the work that you've done on this page is gone. Please remember to save the configuration. Scott, I believe we have a couple of questions. Let's see.
All right.
Okay. Okay, the first question is, can we not have the do not reply message? Can we put our order specific email in its place?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. The email that the customer receives will always say do not reply, because that is generated by our system. But within the email, you can always, yes, that is one of the things I think many stores would want to change. because if the customer hits reply, the store is going to get the email. So Scott, I believe you were making those changes for one of the emails, if you have it already.
Right. Well, that's the whole idea behind the generic modified message is if you don't like the message that's already going out, you can copy it, make changes to it, and make it your new default, essentially. So in my generic modified, we can come down to the auto reply message, and instead of saying please do not reply to this message, we can use one of those replacement tokens, or just put an email address in here and says, please reply, or we just say please reply to this message. It's not too difficult, but remember that the default will say, please do not reply to the message, even though if a customer does hit reply, it is going to come back to the store. But yes, you can either remove that phrase, you can change that phrase. Keep in mind, again, the default that always goes out already says this. So if you don't want it to say that, you need to make a new default, essentially. Copy out that email, make a new one, make the changes that you want, and then make sure that's the one that's always going out to your customers.
Okay. The next question is, can we make one that is a gift one that doesn't have the price? Jessica, at this time, it is not possible, because as Scott mentioned, there are two sections of that email that you cannot change, because it is pulled directly from the order information. And for now, we are not messing with that part of the email, which is the purchase information and the order summary. So anything in those two areas you cannot change at this point. So I think if you're looking for a gift invoice, then you probably want to hide those two. So we will add it to our requests. We will look into it, but at this time, it is, sorry, it's not possible. Let's look at the next question. What if the customer does pick up in store for a not yet published? Will they get two emails? Okay. Oh yes. So Amber, that's a good question, which actually leads us to another important rule about using rules. So when you create a rule, like when you are going to create a new email based on a rule for store pickup, make sure that your default email is not sent out for those orders. So you have to negate it in that first email. So you have the default email, and then you have the store pickup email. So the store pickup email, you added a condition saying send it only for store pickup orders. The default email, you have to go in and then make sure that that email does not get sent for store pickup orders, because definitely the customers don't want to get two emails. So yes, so when you start working with rules, you have to make sure that an order falls into one of those categories, not both. And there is another one. Can you share which rules would help us create an item-specific message? Yes, Katie, we can do that. So Scott, can you open up that rule, the custom email template that you created with the rule?
You want the template or the rule?
The rule, sorry. The in-store, yes. Okay. So here, this is for an in-store pickup. Like, we can show you all the conditions that are available. So if you click on add condition, so if you are trying to create an email template that goes out only for particular products, let's say you know the ISBN, if it's like for a particular book and the ISBN of that book, then you can use a condition where it checks for an order product's ISBN by SKU. So that's one way to do it if you want to target certain ISBNs. Or if you want to target certain types of products, like product classes, then you can choose that check and orders product classes. Or again, it depends on whether you want only for the product classes or if it's okay to have other products. So depending on what the scenario is, this is where you would find all the rules. Sorry, all the conditions for the rules. Let's see. Can we not message? Okay, that one we answered. This one, yes. Okay, I think we got it all. And I know there was some confusion about moving too fast with the menus. And I think to summarize this, maybe we can just go over some of the basic uh, menus where you can see it. So
Sure.
let me, Scott, I have an account as a store admin on the site. Do you want to move the control over to me so I can
Yeah, we
share
can
my
do
screen?
that. Okay, that should be back on you.
Okay. So this is the same site that Scott was using, but I'm logged in as a store admin, so you can see exactly what the controls you have. So first, to request the feature, you go to Store, Configuration, Account Information and Preferences, and the Store Features. So this is where you first go in to request the feature. And once you have requested the feature, you want to go set your preferences if you want to do that first. So it would be under Store, Configuration, Account Information and Preferences, and Store Preferences. So this is where you find the hide the logo in invoice option and hide the store name in invoice option. We will try to find a way to list these two together instead of being so far apart. Then the next place is store, configuration, and orders, email, or invoice templates. So this is where you would go to create new templates or to preview existing templates. So this is where everything happens. So once this is done, then you're going to configure the rules. So that is under configuration, workflow, and roles. And if you want to edit the default email that's going out, so that is under email, customer, checkout notification. So this is the one that goes to the customers. You will actually see another one here that says email, admin, checkout notification. We are not messing with this now because the admin emails, the store admin gets an email for every order that is pretty basic. So that is just the bare information. There is nothing to customize there. So we are not touching that. And once you create new templates, you will see them listed here. If you don't find them here, make sure just scroll down because these are the inactive roles and these on top are the active roles. If you don't see the role listed here, please go down and make sure it's not maybe moved to the inactive. You just have to make them active. So these are, and the other place where you can check the templates is if you go to store orders and click on any order under invoice, mail invoice, and here you can choose the template that you want, and then you hit mail invoice, then the email is sent out with the reason we added it here is because let's say you have a store pickup template and the customer requests a new email like an invoice at a later date. You have to make sure that if this customer originally received the store pickup template, then when you send this email again, make sure that you select that same template so that the customer is not seeing two different templates for the same order. I think that's, let's see, is there any other questions? Okay, there we go. Can we set multiple rules? Yes, you can. In the same, you can set up multiple roles. Like if you want one set of emails for regular shipped orders, that would be under one role. If you want to set up for store pickup, that would be another role. If you want to set up an email template for just particular books, that would be a separate role. Or if it is an email template that is just for event tickets, that would be a separate role. But every time you create a new rule, make sure that an order does not fall under two rules. You have to be very careful about that so that the customers do not get more than one emails for that order. Okay, so you're saying for an ISBN and pay at store. Okay, yes. So if you want to create a rule for a particular ISBN and if it is pay at store, it would be two conditions in the same rule. Like if we go back to look at the rule that Scott created, so this would be configuration workflow rules. So this is the one that Scott created. So let's take a look at that. So this has one condition here saying that this is for a store pickup. Let's say you want to add another condition that if the customer is picking it up at the store and for a particular ISBN, you would add a condition. This is the same rule, but you're going to add a condition. So here you can say, since I'm not a bookseller and I don't know my ISBNs, so I'm just going to say if it is for a product class, then I select, okay, if it is for anything that is a store book, and then I save it. So what happens is now this in-store pickup email is now configured for customers who are picking it up at the store and they are ordering a store product. So if you want to add more conditions to a rule, you just do the add condition. Okay. Can you show us how to negate something from the default? Yes, we can do that. So I'm going to go back to the default rule. So that is configuration workflow rules. So this is the email customer checkout notification. So we already have a new template for store pickup. So now we have to make sure that this email does not go for customers that are picking up at the store. So here I have to add, to negate it, I have to add a condition. So the condition is I'm going to tell the system, don't send it for store pickup. So I select the condition that I want to negate, which is shipping code from a particular method. And I select in-store pickup. And then this is where the magic is, negate. So I click on negate and then I save it. So now if you look at this, see what happens is this is an email, this is the default email, but you just added a negate condition here, which says it is not an order that is shipped from a particular method. So this is how, when you want to negate something, that is what you use that negate checkbox. And before you use that, just be careful, because in this case, it is very simple. If it is like a product class, you may have one additional option to do, but that's where you would do the negation. Okay, I think, oh, thank you, Amber. You're welcome. Amber says we are the best, Scott.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, so I think that is it. Let me just quickly go over if we have any other questions that we didn't do. I think we answered all the questions. Okay.